US State Secretary Antony Blinken invited his Russian counterpart to hold talks over the Ukrainian crisis next week in Europe. The problem of funding the government again resurfaced in the United States. Yesterday, the Senate solved this issue, having voted for increasing budget spending, though the Democrats had to make concessions on medical and vaccine expenses. What is going on in American trading floors? Let's try to figure it out. The US major stock indexes slumped on Thursday for the same reason. This week, market sentiment is overshadowed by escalating tensions around Ukraine. Besides, expectations of a sharp rate hike in the US also damped market optimism. One of the arguments for monetary tightening is the overheated real estate market that confuses investors with mixed data. Building permits rose to 1.9 million items in the United States, but housing starts declined. The White House stated that soaring inflation remains a thorny issue nowadays. Washington hopes that inflation rates will go down significantly in 2023 because the crisis will be settled. When it comes to the stock market, the Nasdaq plunged 2.9% yesterday. The Dow Jones slipped 1.8% and the S&P 500 closed 2.1% down. The gravity of the situation is confirmed by the fact that the S&P 500 rarely falls more than 2% intraday. Yesterday, the stock market showed slightly worse performance than usual, and today the S&P 500 recovered almost 0.5% to 4,380 points, and now the index seems to be consolidating in the range between 4,340 and 4,420 points. Investors express risk aversion due to escalating jitters around Ukraine. No wonder they are shifting focus towards gold away from bonds and stocks. The US currency also serves as a safe haven asset in case of war or in the face of the rate hike by the Fed Reserve. Though the greenback declined moderately yesterday, its index remains almost flat against a basket of rival currencies, while investors fear a full-blown military conflict in East Europe. They will seek refuge in the US dollar. Thus, the greenback snapped its two-day losing streak and got stuck in a range. The borders for the index are seen between 95.40 and 96.00. While the Russia-Ukraine crisis is developing, it's rocking the oil market. Oil prices are very sensitive to any news from the Ukrainian border. The Canadian economy is dealing with the same problems as the US economy. Inflation in Canada has accelerated to the strongest levels in the last 30 years. Yields of Canadian government bonds are falling in parallel to the US Treasuries, and today traders found out that the Canadian core retail sales contracted to minus 2.5% in December, following a 1.1% increase a month ago. Besides, retail sales dropped to minus 1.8% in December from a 0.7% growth in the previous months. New housing price index rose to 0.9% in January from 0.2% in December. Hence, the Bank of Canada will have to raise the key interest rate as well. And today, the USD CAD pair is trading at nearly 1.2698 in the expected corridor between 1.2600 and 1.2800. Bitcoin is showing some signs of optimism, though it's vulnerable to escalating geopolitical tensions. The crypto community does not give up hopes to turn Bitcoin into a safe haven asset. Analysts foresee a new bullish wave for the flagship cryptocurrency. If so, Bitcoin will be able to print new historic highs. Here is an amazing story that an investment in Bitcoin worth $10 in 2010 expanded to $8 million in 2021, so history could repeat itself. The hash rate level, or the capacity of mining devices, has been on the rise over the recent 3 months. Notably, mining volumes of the digital gold hit record rates in January and February. In other words, the hash rate has revived in full after a crackdown on the crypto industry in China that was followed by massive relocation of China's miners beyond the country. Meanwhile, risk aversion is setting the tone on global financial markets. Thus, Bitcoin is trading lower for the second day in a row, and today the digital token is trading at about $40,502. Amid the simmering standoff between Russia and Ukraine, the Ukrainian parliament voted unanimously for the legal use of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and passed the appropriate legislation. That's all for today. Have a nice weekend and see you on Monday.